Vote Gina Hinojosa for Texas governor. Vote for Vicky Goodwin for Texas lieutenant governor. Vote James Tallarico for Texas senator. And my personal favorite, vote Sarah Eckhart for Texas comptroller. If we elect these types of folks to these positions, one of the first things we could do is end Citizens United. That and bring back Chevron deference. But we're dealing with the worst of the worst, and I believe I know who's at the epicenter of it all. Of course, we all know that it's Israel and IDF now. I'm calling Southwestern out. I'm calling Focus on the Family out. I'm calling Alliance Defending Freedom out. Governor Greg Abbott, aka Hot Wheels, is the one who gave all the data centers these massive tax breaks so they could rush into Texas. Fast forwarded to now, everybody and their grandma are opposing these data centers, so he's scrambling politically to about face in a 180-degree turn, and he's now trying to come across as anti-data centers. And I think that type of horse shit is what we all don't want anymore. The patriarchy stands for people not taking accountability for their actions or their words or what they stand for. And that's what Greg Abbott, and that's what MAGA, and that's what all these patriarchal billionaire simps and these wannabe tech bros think. They want a life where they don't have to take responsibility for anything and they can just act like 12-year-olds. That's what we in Texas don't want anymore. That's what we Americans don't want anymore. We don't want children running the show. No offense to children. In a lot of cases, you're probably smarter than some of the adults here. But I want to tell you about the institutions that they hijacked to make all this possible. And when I say this, I mean this fascist, this Christo-fascist MAGA coup. We could end this poly market scam that the Pentagon and the tech bros came up with to bet on terrorism. We could hold the military-industrial complex accountable and make sure that they don't go around starting wars with sovereign countries anymore. Like, fuck Don Jr. and fuck anybody at the Pentagon that has allowed this poly market disaster. And to know it's all tied to IDF and Israel and their lobbyist takeover of our political system, both parties. Yeah, I'm talking about AIPAC and its affiliates and the Israeli lobby. They've basically taken over all forms of our government and the media at this point. They've gone so far as to take over facets of our entertainment, and they've infiltrated law enforcement with these flock cameras and Axon cameras. They're now systemic issues within our police force. One or two letters or characters off on these AI camera readers for flock and Axon or this surveillance state, and people are going to get unalived. The wrong people are going to get targeted, and they're going to get unalived. For instance, I saw some cops pull over somebody due to a flock camera flag of a stolen vehicle, and the folks were totally calm. It was because the reader was off by one character. But if that group was not a regulated couple, I think they might have lashed out at the officer. Or maybe if that officer had been a different officer that wasn't good at de-escalating and those people weren't regulated, that would end up in a potential unaliving, or factor in racial tensions on top of all that. And when I say racial tensions, I'm talking about systemic racism within the United States and United States policing. So factor in systemic racism to a heightened surveillance state and a heightened police state, and that is bad news for regular day-to-day civilians or just anybody. Like, what the flock are we doing, y'all? Flock the PayPal mafia. And the carpetbaggers in Nashville still haven't gotten back to me regarding Southwestern being hijacked by IDF as well. So the IDF hijacked NRA, they hijacked Focus on the Family, turned that into Alliance Defending Freedom. Then, of course, they got their little BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard tentacles through everything and our economy. And I believe after Spencer Hayes, the former owner of Southwestern Company, I think they hijacked Southwestern Company as well. Who knows? Spencer Hayes may have been complicit this whole time. He was an old, rich white guy who was misogynistic, probably. I didn't know him at all, but I don't think he was racist. And I certainly don't think he would condone concentration camps and genocide. And that's what Marsha Blackburn and Kevin Stitt and Mike Johnson have all signed off on. They're all alumni of Southwestern, this publishing company that I believe is at the epicenter of this MAGA coup, and they're in Nashville, Tennessee. They have alumni like Rick Perry, who is working behind the scenes with all these MAGA oligarchs and tech bros that are trying to usurp our constitutional republic under the guise of Texas values and American patriotism. Kenneth Starr is an alumni, and he could be traced back to a lot of this bullshit from the Tea Party as well. So my point is that when I talk to these folks in Nashville, they try to act like that they aren't involved in politics at all, but in actuality, they are very involved with politics. In fact, they have some of the most key people that are helping this fascist death cult perpetuate their hatred in such a putrid, in-your-face manner. The reason why they're able to do that with a smile is because they have soft skills and training from Southwestern Company. And I'm talking about Mike Johnson, and I'm talking about Marsha Blackburn. So my hypothesis is Southwestern got hijacked by IDF. They used that as lobbyist tactics to take over the rest of Congress. Meanwhile, they had BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard control the assets of 95% of our corporations. They needed a good base, so they hijacked the NRA, who doesn't like guns, weaponized that against us. Then, when Dobson died, they hijacked Focus on the Family and used Alliance Defending Freedom and weaponized a law firm to take away our basic civil rights that we had fought for decades. So if you can't see that all of this is tied together, then I don't know what else to say. I can't get on a whiteboard and spell this all out with a bunch of strings and crazy scribble writings. I'm not going to go that far. I'm not going to do that. I've asked Southwestern to stand up for themselves and explain why Mike Johnson and Marsha Blackburn are betting against the people of America and why they're using the skills that they learned at Southwestern against us. And they haven't responded to me. And I've given them an exorbitant amount of time. And they know who I am because I've heard other alumni say that they think that I'm non-duplicatable. I've heard their admins say that I'm light years ahead of some of their other agents. I wasn't a top producer, but I was in their superstar book, the top 10, 20% of sales producers pretty much every year that I did that. My point is, they probably try to act like they don't know who the fuck I am because of what I'm saying, but they know who the fuck I am. Hell, I'm even calling out Camp Pendleton and Balboa for allowing these Yahtzees to build frickin' Navy barracks in the shape of swastikas from the sky, if you look at them. And the minute that I found out that these same assholes back in 1946 purposely mistranslated the Bible just so they can attack the LGBT community, the specific word being arsenokotai, that made me just drop all of this bullshit. I am not going to protect or stand up for the patriarchy, for organized religion, for the Southwestern Company, for Focus on the Family, for any of these ultra right-wing Christian people. I think you are domestic terrorists. I think you're a clear and present danger to the United States of America. I think there's a small group of you that know exactly what you are, and for the rest of you sheep that are being manipulated, you don't know that you don't know. You're in multiple cults. You've been manipulated your whole life and possibly trafficked. If y'all don't rise up together and speak out now and at least vote in the midterms in November for social democrats, you're going to live in a totalitarian hell the rest of your life.